Nathan Cole sat alone in his dimly lit apartment, the only light coming from the faint glow of his phone screen. The air was thick with unease, a suffocating weight pressing against his chest. His fingers hovered over the unlock button, hesitating. It wasn't just paranoia. Something felt off. Isabel had been distant lately, her laughter forced, her once loving gaze shadowed by something else. He exhaled sharply, shaking off the thought. Maybe it was just stress, maybe he was imagining things, but the gnawing doubt wouldn't let him go. With a slow swipe, he unlocked his phone, bracing himself for whatever he might find. The vibration startled him. A new message flashed across his screen. Noah Carter. I didn't know if I should send this, man, but you need to see it. Nathan frowned and clicked the attachment. His heart lurched. Messages, dozens of them, flirty, suggestive, some outright explicit. All between Isabel and a man he didn't recognize. Isabel. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. Unknown. Number. You looked so beautiful in that dress, but even better without it. Nathan's stomach twisted. His fingers gripped the phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was proof. He scrolled further, hoping, praying there was some explanation, a misunderstanding, a cruel joke. But then he saw it, a hotel reservation, the Grand Bellevue, paid under Isabel's credit card. 1 room, 2 guests. His breath hitched. The date sent a fresh wave of nausea through him. Last weekend. The same weekend she'd told him she was visiting her parents. His vision blurred, rage bubbling beneath the surface. How many times had she looked him in the eyes and lied? How often had she come home to him with the scent of another man still lingering on her skin? Nathan shot up from the couch, his chest rising and falling in heavy, uneven breaths. His mind screamed at him to do something, to call her, to demand answers, to throw his phone across the room and pretend none of this was real. But it was real. He staggered back, gripping the edge of the counter to steady himself. Love turned sour in his mouth. A bitter aftertaste of trust shattered beyond repair. He had imagined a future with her, built dreams around her, and she had been tearing them apart, one betrayal at a time. A low, humorless chuckle escaped his lips. Had she ever loved him at all? Or had he just been a convenient placeholder until something better came along? Nathan forced himself to breathe. Think. Don't act on impulse. He wasn't going to be the fool who raged blindly, who let emotions control his next move. No. He would make her feel every ounce of the pain she had inflicted on him. But he wouldn't just expose her. He'd make sure she could never recover from it. His fingers tightened around his phone, his pulse slowing as his fury sharpened into cold resolve. Isabel Brooks had no idea what was coming. Nathan Cole had never doubted his love for Isabel Brooks. 4 years together had been filled with laughter, whispered promises, and the kind of connection that made others envious. They were the couple friends admired, the pair that seemed destined for forever. From weekend getaways to spontaneous date nights, their love felt effortless. Nathan still remembered the night he proposed, how her eyes sparkled under the city lights, how she gasped before throwing herself into his arms, whispering yes against his lips. That moment had cemented their future, or so he believed. To him, Isabel was his soulmate. But in hindsight, maybe he had been in love with an illusion. Nathan had always thought Isabel was devoted to him. She had a way of making him feel like the center of her world. Soft kisses in the morning, affectionate texts throughout the day, and that warm smile she reserved just for him. She was charming, affectionate, and seemingly loyal, But had he been blind? Had he been so wrapped up in their picture-perfect romance that he missed the warning signs? Looking back, the cracks had been there, small, almost imperceptible, but present nonetheless. Moments where her smile didn't quite reach her eyes, where her embrace felt more like habit than passion. He had brushed them off, convincing himself that every relationship had its ups and downs. But now he wasn't so. Sure, it began subtly. Isabel working late more often, her phone never leaving her side. The way she'd tense when he reached for it, laughing off his questions with a playful, "You don't trust me?" At first he had dismissed it. She had always been ambitious, and work had its demands. But then came the late-night messages. The ones she claimed were from colleagues, though she never let him see the screen. There were canceled plans, last-minute excuses, and moments where she seemed distant, as if she were physically present, but emotionally elsewhere. Nathan told himself it was just stress, that she loved him and love meant trust. But deep down something gnawed at him, a quiet, persistent unease that he couldn't shake. Their intimacy, once electric, passionate, began to dwindle. Isabel, who used to melt into his arms, now pulled away. Her kisses lacked warmth. Her touch felt rehearsed. "I'm just exhausted," she said whenever he asked. "Work has been draining." Nathan wanted to believe her. He needed to. But the excuses piled up. Late nights at the office, sudden weekend trips with friends he had never met. A coldness in her voice when she said, "I love you," as if the words no longer carried weight. Something had changed, and no matter how much he tried to ignore it, he could feel their love slipping through his fingers. Noah Jensen had always been the kind of friend who looked out for Nathan. The two had been inseparable since college, and if there was one thing Noah hated, it was seeing his best friend get hurt. So when he spotted Isabel at a bar, her laughter a little too intimate, her hand grazing the arm of a man who wasn't Nathan, he felt his stomach drop. He watched, disbelief settling in as Isabel leaned in closer, whispering something that made the man smirk. It wasn't just friendly banter. It was flirtation, the kind that left no room for doubt. Noah clenched his jaw, debating whether to confront her right then and there. But something told him to wait, to gather proof before shattering Nathan's world. For days, Noah wrestled with the decision. Was it really his place to interfere? What if it was a misunderstanding? But then he thought about Nathan, the man who had spent years loving Isabel, blind to the deception unraveling behind his back. Could he really stand by and say nothing? The weight of the truth settled heavily on his shoulders. No matter how much it hurt, Nathan deserved to know. The evidence came unexpectedly. A friend of Noah's who worked at the same bar had overheard Isabel's conversation. A name was mentioned, someone who wasn't Nathan. Curious, Noah did some digging. It didn't take long to find what he needed. Screenshots, texts filled with longing passion, words meant for a lover, not a fiancé. "I can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. I don't know how I'll keep pretending." Noah felt sick. There was no denying it now. Isabel wasn't just cheating. She was in love with someone else. He hesitated one last time before hitting send. Nathan needed to see this. The reply was instant. "Nathan, what the hell is this?" Noah clenched his jaw, typing carefully. "Noah, I'm sorry, man, but there's more." A second screenshot. A hotel reservation under Isabel's name, the Grand Bellevue. 1 room, 2 guests. Last weekend. The same weekend she had told Nathan she was visiting her parents. There was no room for doubt now. Isabel Brooks wasn't just lying, she was living a double life. Nathan sat across from Isabel at their favorite restaurant, his fingers wrapped around a glass of whiskey he barely sipped. She smiled at him, the same practiced curve of her lips that had once felt warm, genuine. Now it was just a mask. "You've been quiet tonight," she noted, tilting her head slightly. He forced a chuckle, shaking his head. "Just tired. Work's been a lot." A lie. But then again, wasn't that the game now? Lies layered over more lies. She reached across the table, her fingers grazing his. A touch that had once sent sparks through his veins now felt hollow. "We should take a weekend trip soon. Just us." He swallowed the bitterness rising in his throat. "Yeah," he murmured, watching her carefully. Just us. She had no idea. Nathan played the part of the loving fiancé, but beneath the surface, every interaction became a test. "How was your day?" he asked casually one evening, watching as she scrolled through her phone. "Same as always. Meetings, emails, exhaustion." She barely looked up, too absorbed in whatever was on her screen. "You weren't with anyone else?" He kept his tone light, teasing. She finally glanced at him, brow furrowing slightly before she smirked. "Of course not, babe. Who else would I be with?" The ease of her lie sent a chill through him. She didn't even hesitate. Nathan smiled back, masking the rage simmering beneath. "Just making sure," he said, pressing a kiss to her temple. She sighed, contentedly nestling into him. But all he could think about was how effortlessly she deceived him. The truth lay in the numbers. Late one night, while Isabel was asleep, Nathan combed through their shared bank account. He scrolled past grocery store transactions, utility bills, the usual mundane expenses, until he found them. Luxury hotels, upscale restaurants, expensive lingerie. Nathan's breath hitched when he saw a charge from La Belle Boutique, a store specializing in intimate wear. He had never seen Isabel wear anything from there. A 5-star hotel booking, the Grand Bellevue, just 2 weeks prior. The evidence wasn't just circumstantial anymore. It was written in cold, hard numbers. Nathan clenched his jaw, gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles turned white. She had been using their money to fund her affair. "We need proof," Nathan told Noah the next day. His best friend's expression darkened. "You already have proof." "No," Nathan said, shaking his head. "I need to see it myself." Noah exhaled, rubbing his temples. Then, reluctantly, he nodded. "All right, I'll get her to meet me. We'll see what happens." A few hours later, Noah texted Isabel inviting her out for a drink. She agreed instantly, claiming she was stuck at work when Nathan asked about her plans. Nathan's stomach twisted, but he swallowed down the fury. The game was almost over. Nathan parked across the street from the bar Noah had chosen. His hands gripped the steering wheel as he watched Isabel arrive. She wasn't alone. Jason Turner. Nathan's pulse pounded in his ears as he saw them together, laughing, touching, completely lost in each other. She looked at Jason the way she used to look at him. Nathan felt something inside him crack. Jason Turner wasn't just any man. He was someone Nathan worked with, someone he had trusted. The realization hit like a sledgehammer to the chest. Isabel had chosen someone from his own world, someone who shook his hand at meetings, someone he had gone out for drinks with. Nathan's vision blurred with fury. This wasn't just betrayal. This was humiliation, and he wasn't about to let it slide. He steadied his shaking hands as he pulled out his phone, a quick series of photos, a few videos. Their stolen kisses, the way Jason held her waist as they leaned into each other. Proof. Undeniable, gut-wrenching proof. Nathan exhaled slowly, his fury settling into something sharper. Cold. Calculated. This wouldn't just be revenge, this would be justice. Nathan could have confronted them right then and there. But where was the satisfaction in that? No, this needed to be bigger, grander. A plan began to form, one that would strip Isabel of everything she had taken for granted. He wasn't just going to expose her, he was going to make sure she felt it. Nathan stared at his engagement ring, the one he had so carefully chosen for her, the one that had symbolized a future she had so easily discarded. He took it off, setting it on the counter. Then he picked up his laptop. Isabel wanted a perfect wedding. He would give her one she would never forget. Hours later, Nathan closed his laptop, his work complete. He had compiled everything, texts, transactions, photos, videos, onto a single USB drive. He labeled it carefully, "For my love," a gift, a time bomb. And when it exploded, Isabel would never see it coming. Laughter echoed through the elegant restaurant as glasses clinked in celebration. The dim glow of chandeliers cast a golden hue over the room, where family and friends gathered, reveling in the joy of what was supposed to be a perfect evening. Isabel sat at the center of it all, radiant in a crimson dress that hugged her frame. Her eyes sparkled as she leaned in to whisper something to Nathan, oblivious to the storm waiting to engulf her. "Tonight feels magical, doesn't it?" she murmured, her fingers brushing his arm. Nathan offered a small smile, the weight of the USB drive in his pocket grounding him. "Unforgettable," he replied, his voice steady, devoid of the warmth she expected. The night had just begun, but the illusion of perfection was about to shatter. Nathan sat motionless, his expression unreadable. His fingers curled around the USB drive, its presence a silent promise of what was to come. He should have felt nervous, maybe even hesitant, but there was nothing, just a cold, unwavering certainty. Noah caught his gaze from across the room, offering a subtle nod. A silent agreement. Isabel laughed beside him, throwing her head back in delight at some meaningless joke. She had no idea that with every passing second, her world was inching closer to destruction. Nathan inhaled deeply, exhaling his last moment of restraint. It was time. He rose from his seat, glass in hand. The room quieted, all eyes turning toward him with anticipation. Isabel beamed, expecting words of love, perhaps a declaration of devotion. Nathan's lips curved into a faint smirk. "I want to share something special with all of you," he began, his voice carrying effortlessly across the hushed crowd. He reached into his pocket, pulling out the small USB drive. "Isabel, this is for you." She blinked in confusion as he handed it to her. "What is this?" Nathan's stare was unwavering. "Play it." The request seemed simple, but something in his tone sent a ripple of unease through the guests. Isabel hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "Nathan, what's going on?" "Just play it," he repeated, his voice eerily calm. Noah stepped forward, taking the USB from her trembling fingers and inserting it into the laptop connected to the projector. The screen flickered to life, the speakers humming softly. The room stilled. At first it was nothing but text messages, flirty exchanges, affectionate nicknames, whispered promises meant to be private. The color drained from Isabel's face. Then came the photos. Stolen moments in hotel rooms, Jason's arm draped over her as they lay tangled in sheets that weren't hers to share. A video followed. Laughter, murmured confessions, bodies pressed together in the dim glow of candlelight. The restaurant had fallen silent, the weight of betrayal suffocating. The truth was undeniable. A collective gasp rippled through the guests, followed by hushed whispers. No, it can't be. Is that Jason? Jesus Christ. Eyes darted between Isabel and Jason, searching for an explanation, an excuse, anything that could rewrite what they had just witnessed. But there was none. The evidence spoke louder than any denial ever could. Isabel's breath hitched, panic setting in. "Turn it off!" she shrieked, lunging for the laptop. Noah blocked her, stepping in front of the screen. "This isn't real," she gasped, looking wildly around the room. "Nathan, please." But there was no mercy in his gaze. She turned to Jason, desperation clawing at her throat. "Say something, tell them it's not what it looks like." But Jason remained silent. Jason sat motionless, his skin pale, his fingers twitching against his glass. He knew there was no escape. Every person in that room had just seen the truth unfold before their eyes. There was no spinning it, no explaining it away. His wife, seated a few feet away, slowly rose, her expression one of sheer devastation. "How long?" she demanded, her voice trembling. Jason swallowed hard but said nothing. His silence was all the answer she needed. Nathan stepped forward, his movements deliberate, composed. He looked at Isabel, not with rage, not with heartbreak, but with something far worse, indifference. "Save your tears," he said smoothly, his voice devoid of emotion. "You already spent all my love." Then he turned on his heel and walked away. The chaos left in his wake was absolute. Isabel's parents sat in stunned silence, unable to even look at their daughter. Jason's wife snatched her purse from the table, eyes burning with fury. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer," guests murmured amongst themselves, some in shock, others with poorly concealed satisfaction at the spectacle that had unfolded before them. Noah clasped Nathan's shoulder as they stepped outside, the crisp night air filling his lungs. "That," Noah said with a low whistle, "was legendary." Nathan exhaled slowly, letting the weight of it all settle. Justice had been served, and for the first time in months he felt free. The messages started the morning after the disastrous reveal. "Nathan, please. Just talk to me." I swear it wasn't what it looked like. Voicemails flooded his phone, her voice cracking under the weight of desperation. "I made a mistake. I was stupid, but we can fix this. Don't throw everything away." Emails followed, long-winded apologies littered with excuses. Nathan never responded. She knocked on his door 3 days later, tear-streaked and shaking. "I love you, Nathan. Don't do this." For the first time since exposing her, he looked her in the eyes. "I already did." Then he shut the door. When begging didn't work, Isabel resorted to what she knew best: manipulation. She called mutual friends, spinning a new version of the story. "Jason tricked me. He took advantage of my vulnerability." But the messages, the videos, undeniable proof contradicted every word. Noah laughed when he heard. She must think we're idiots. Even her family remained unmoved. Her mother's voice was cold over the phone. "You had everything, Isabel, and you threw it away." For the first time she realized no one believed her anymore. The whispers followed, Isabel everywhere. Former friends avoided eye contact in public. Social invites dried up. At work, colleagues exchanged glances when she entered the break room. The pity in their eyes stung. Jason's wife filed for divorce within a week. "You two deserve each other," she told Isabel before walking out of the lawyer's office. But Jason didn't want her. He changed his number, moved out of town, left her alone to deal with the wreckage. The world she once controlled had crumbled beneath her feet. Nathan made a clean break. Phone, blocked, social media, deleted, emails, filtered to spam. Isabel no longer existed in his world. "She's still trying," Noah mentioned one evening. Nathan shrugged. "She can scream into the void for all I care. She wouldn't get another chance to twist the truth. Some betrayals didn't deserve closure, only distance." Healing wasn't immediate, but Nathan refused to let the past define him. Therapy became a weekly ritual, unpacking wounds, understanding patterns. Mornings at the gym replaced sleepless nights. Every weight lifted was another piece of himself reclaimed. He reconnected with old friends, rediscovered forgotten passions. One night, standing before a mirror, he saw something unfamiliar. Peace. Months passed before Nathan considered dating again. When he did, it was different. No blind trust. No falling too fast. He watched actions, not just words. On a quiet evening, he sat across from someone new, her eyes warm, her laughter unforced. "I like this," she said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Us." Nathan hesitated, then smiled. "Me too." Scars remained, but they no longer defined him. One last email arrived late at night. "Nathan, I've changed. I see everything clearly now. I miss you. I just want to talk." His cursor hovered over the screen. For a moment, the past flickered. Whispers, lies, a love built on deceit. Then he clicked delete without reading another word. Nathan didn't need revenge, didn't need an apology. His closure wasn't in her words, it was in the silence. Isabel was the past. His future, his own to build. And for the first time in a long while, he was free. Lies had a way of unraveling when least expected. Isabel believed she had control, that she could weave a perfect web of deception, but in the end it all collapsed. Publicly, brutally. Nathan had once thought the truth would be his greatest pain. Instead, it became his salvation. She really thought she could keep it hidden, Noah remarked one evening, shaking his head. Nathan exhaled slowly. They always do. It didn't matter how carefully secrets were buried. Sooner or later they clawed their way to the surface, and when they did, they destroyed everything in their path. The hardest lesson wasn't about trust, it was about self-worth. Nathan had wasted too much time justifying, forgiving, ignoring red flags. In the end, betrayal wasn't something to fight against. It was something to walk away from. "I would have given her everything," he admitted one night, staring at the city skyline. His friend nodded, but she didn't deserve it. That was the truth. Love, real love, didn't. If you enjoy uncovering the hidden truths of relationships and the secrets no one talks about, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to Infidelity Whispers. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that will leave you speechless.